Hello, I'm Don Lombardi, and this is another Lombardi Live. Today I'm going to be talking with a dear friend of mine who I've been fortunate enough to know through the many evolutions of his career, one of which we documented in a DVD project that I was honored to help produce. It was called The Evolution of Tony Royster Jr. It followed his career from a very young age through becoming a professional young touring drummer. Today we're going to touch on that and ask what lessons he learned along the way. Here's a 1-minute clip from The Evolution of Tony Royster Jr., a documentary now on drumchannel.com.
Tony Royster is certain to drum up his own celebrity status.
I want to be a professional drummer.
Our next guest from Hinesville, Georgia, 11 years old and plays a lot of drums. Please welcome Tony Royster Jr.
Would you please welcome 12-year-old Tony Royster Jr.
I guess I was kind of like a circus act or something like that.
And now, welcome 37-year-old Tony Royster Jr.
What's up?
The
What's up, John? How are you?
The years went by. Yeah. No matter how old we both get, you're always going to be the kid in my mind. What a pleasure it was. We first met, I think, when you were about 14. Does that ring a bell?
Around 14 years old.
Is that a
you
NAMM
actually gave me my first opportunity let me take that back. I met you at one of the NAMM shows maybe a year or two before that, and then you allowed me to play your drums, DW drums, which changed my life ever since 1998. So it's been nothing but amazing since then.
You know, and I've seen through my long career a lot of young drummers who are phenomenal, have a tremendous amount of talent, and blessed, as you were, with a great amount of technique at an early age. And being young and having that much talent makes you really popular. But what we want to talk about more today is things that you learned as your career grew, because you not only evolved into a great musician, but you took a look at what you had already had learned, and you kind of reinvented yourself, I would say, which I don't see that happen that often with a lot of young, phenom drummers. But what are some of the major things you learned? Like, how did you get the Jay-Z gig from being just a great chops young guy?
You know what? And I would definitely dive right into that. I have something I want to say, and it's been years. I don't think we really talked about it or really went into detail about basically when it comes to timing and personality and chemistry and believing in someone. And even going into playing with Jay-Z and everything, I would have to just first of all thank you and DW for even giving me the opportunity to play the drums. I remember going to all of the NAMM shows and seeing these beautiful drum sets just set up with gold hardware and the woofer on the front of the bass drum. Like these things to me was just incredible. And I remember going to do a drum festival overseas, and I won't mention any names, but I was kind of hurt because the previous company set me up with some drums that weren't to my liking, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I remember walking downstairs and I saw this beautiful Sea Breeze green drum set just turning around as if it was on Wayne's World, like just spinning in 360 degrees, and had the gold hardware and everything on there. And somebody made a phone call. My father talked to somebody, one of the representatives there, and they gave you, John, got a call, and they said, yes, you can use this set for this show and this festival. And I played it. I rolled it up to the stage, and I did an amazing job. Everybody loved it. And since then, I was a DW endorser, but it's because you believed in me and that right there just showed me how much when it comes to timing and it comes to just believing in yourself and knowing that everything happens for a reason. That right there is a staple in my life. And so just so you guys know, I always will be dedicated and loyal to you guys until the end. So DW Drums for life, just so you know. Now going into the Jay-Z gig, that also was a crazy situation because sometimes when you think, the odds are against you, I always say that patience is a virtue, right? And also, sometimes if you don't take the opportunity, I personally like to pray and put things into existence, and if things are for you, things are for you. And I just so happened to be in Poland at the time when I got called for the Jay-Z gig, and I was doing a clinic. And a good friend of mine who when we was doing another DVD before Evolution, Pure Energy, Nissan Stewart, who was he was a guest on the DVD, but I don't know if a lot of people know, but Nissan Stewart was a profound producer besides a drummer. He was involved in everything in the industry, and he had gave me a call, and he said, "Yo, Jay-Z is putting together a band," and at the time, The Roots was the band for Jay-Z, but Jay-Z wanted a younger band. He wanted somebody, that could match his energy. And obviously, the Roots were already certified in the industry, and they had a lot of other things that was going on. So they couldn't tour with Jay like he was getting ready to go on tour for an extensive amount of time. And to make a long story short, I literally was in Poland. He called me, and I was like, I won't be able to be, in the States for another 2 days. I have to do a show tomorrow. He said, well, unfortunately, the auditions are tomorrow, X, Y, and Z. So I was really hurt by it. As I was sitting in my room, I was trying to figure out any which way I could make it work. And I thought it was over. And as I was, flying back, I was getting my connection. I forgot where I was living at the time, but I was on my connection. And I had to check my bags to recheck them. And I got a call from Nissan while I was at my layover. And he says, "Hey, where are you at?" I said, I want to say I was in Atlanta. I forgot where I was at, but I was connecting somewhere. And he was like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going home." He said, "Stay right there." And he hung up the phone, literally hung up the phone. So all I had was approximately 15, 20 minutes before I had to put my bags in there before I missed my next flight to go home. So to the very last second, I said, I can't. I tried to call him back. He didn't answer. So had no choice to get ready to put my bag. As soon as I was getting ready to give him my bag, I got a call from Nissan, and he says, "Hey, go down to Delta, and we have a flight for you to New York." And so just come to find out, the previous drummer that was supposed to do the Jay-Z gig, he had other commitments to other artists, and he was unable to do the entire tour. So that's why he wasn't able to do so. It ended up working out for me anyway, and then I ended up playing for him for the next 8-9 years.
And how old were you at that point? Do you remember exactly? When you got that
Let
call?
me see. So what is this? 2022. So I started playing with Jay in 2006.
Sounds right, because you documented that in the evolution of Tony Royster Jr. We talked a little bit about that too. So
because 2006, 2005, 2006, that's when Jay-Z's American Gangster album had just came out, and that was the first tour we started touring.
So you were about 22, 23 years old. That's
around
young.
that time, exactly. Yeah, so because I remember I was living in Atlanta. I already did like a couple of other artists I was playing with, the Vogue still at the time, and then artists here and there. And then obviously I was still doing my clinics with my father, as my manager going around. And then when I got that call from Nissan Stewart, that changed my whole course of everything.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because easy enough to say I got a call from Nissan Stewart, and there was an opening on the Jay-Z gig. Nissan could have called a lot of people, and he chose you. What do you think it was in his mind that made you ready for that gig? What did you do, you think, in in your later teenage years and younger years for someone to say, not only can he play a great solo, not only is a great person, but I think he can fit on this gig? What is it that you had to either adapt to and learn when you got on the gig, because maybe you thought you were more prepared than you were, or what do you think prepared you for that gig?
You know, not only knowing Nissan prior to the gig, you know, him knowing me as a person, as a young kid, him seeing my personality, also him knowing that I'm more than capable of playing that music. He also knew that I had a strong sense of musicality, but I wasn't pressed to push whatever chops that I had into whatever situation, whenever, you know, presented itself, you know what I'm saying, within the music. And then I remember me and Nissan at the House of Blues. I was like some show, and we went to have like some dinner, and we were just talking about just, you know, just different things, random stuff, producing, and you know, we just continuously grew and grew, had this rapport for each other. And obviously, he's seen me throughout my career grow ever since, you know, the Modern Drummer Festival up until the Grammy Awards, and you know, Nissan, he's a preacher too as well, so he's kind of tapped into like just good spirited people. You know, he has a church and everything in LA. So I think after hanging out with him for a while, and him, like I said, him seeing my playing, and then him also being a guest on my DVD and actually being able to play with me, and he knew I know how to carry myself as an individual. And you know, most people that's in that position, one of the main things that they do not want to do is put somebody in a situation to where it tarnishes their name, right? And their brand is just as big, as just as important as me having this gig, you know. So to refer somebody to a gig and just know that they're going to go in there and trash it, and whichever way, you know, either being late all the time, not being able to remember the music, or just, you know, just being complete, you know, just disrespect, whatever the case may be. But in all of those categories and aspects, he knew that all I wanted to do was play the drums and make sure that people were happy, and I did my job. That's basically how that even went down. And I think besides my playing, my personality and all of that just played a major part, all inclusive, with him calling me to do the gig, and it worked out.
So when you got the gig, and it wasn't really like an audition, he had already said, I've got the guy who's going to be able to make this happen. First time you played in a rehearsal setting, was there anything extra that you learned, or any challenges that you didn't expect?
You know, it's crazy that gig evolved over the course of time of just us understanding technology and what some drummers were doing before I even knew exactly what was going to be in. So, for example, you know, for a long time, a lot of drummers and, you know, playing with artists, the most things that drummers usually had, if they were playing any type of electronic pads, were electronic pads. And that's what it was. It was like a sound on there, on the pad, right? At my time when I was playing, triggers wasn't like really a thing. You know, it was like you had the track within the music, whatever, like the extra percussion parts, if there wasn't a percussionist, but we had a percussionist. So basically any extra sounds were just things that were effects or whatever, because we had a full-on band. We had horn players, we had background singers, we had everything. So it wasn't necessarily, there were like a whole bunch of parts within the Pro Tools. So more so just making sure you held it down, you know, one band, one sound, right? But as time went on, and I realized that, you know, at the beginning of playing with Jay, we had a different musical director. And then when we got a new musical director, I learned a lot about playing the pattern, if that made sense. Okay, playing the actual pattern without any type of your own extraness, if you will, like your own swag or your own sauce. I'm talking about more so just the pattern of the groove of the music, right? And I remember playing next to we were doing a Legend of the Summer tour, and it was Justin Timberlake and myself. So Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z had a concert together, and Brian Fraser Moore was playing with Justin Timberlake at the time, and I was playing with Jay-Z, but we merged. So it was a great band, two full bands together, and we integrated the songs. You know, it was amazing. But when we got into rehearsal, like I would hit my drums, and mind you, this is already a couple of years of playing with Jay, just full acoustically, like no extra. I had a couple of claps here and there, but it wasn't nothing crazy. And when Brian hit his drums, the whole entire room turned to the left. Like, 'cause I'm already hitting my drums, and like they're loud, you know, I don't play soft at all. But when Brian hit his drums, we was like, oh my God, like what is that? And that's when I realized about putting the sounds actually on the drums, triggers, right? So he would have the actual snare sound of the record on the snare. So now that helps you refrain from flamming, right? So now you can control the snare. You have the acoustic snare sound and you have the trigger sound all on the snare. So when he had the kick sound on the kick, and then he had on the side snare, there was another. Everything was triggered. So his drums just sounded so beefy and monstrous in comparison to my drums because it was just acoustic. So from there, that's when I learned about triggers. And that changed my whole thought process of playing from there on out with whomever, if triggering was a part of their program. You know, because when you have a snare sound that's massive, like a Coldplay sound that's on the snare, you can't play ghost notes on the snare because now that sound is going to sound like firecrackers. You know what I mean? So it was more so about diving into precision and efficiency when you're playing. And mind you, Jay-Z was all about pocket, but playing solid and having those actual sounds from these records that they made years ago, and you have them in your possession, and knowing that they're counting on you to make these drum patterns sound like the record was a crazy responsibility. But also, I was privileged to be able to do that and hold it down. For him to be making a crazy face when I'm playing, it's even more gratifying, you know. So it was learning how to play the music and playing it and sounding like the record, and not caring if people knew, if you knew how to chop or not. Because if they knew that I was actually playing the sound and there was nothing coming out of the Pro Tools or whatever, and I was the drummer, everything that you heard when it came to the bottom and foundation besides the bass, that's me, I think they will have a newfound respect for what I've learned and where I've come from.
That's beautiful. Recently had a conversation, another Lombardi Live, with Will Calhoun, which was all about technology, just what you said. Drummers really have to embrace that as part of what's going to be their livelihood in the future if they're going to make a living in the industry. And then how did you I would assume if the MD for Katy Perry was hearing you play with Jay-Z, might not be the audition that you would want for that gig, but obviously, you made that transition in the drum chair. How do you look at what you brought to each one of those bands, or what you're doing with Katy today, and what are those challenges?
Okay, cool. Can you cut right there?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Somebody just knocked at the door, and I want
Okay,
them to
well,
keep
hold on
knocking.
for a second, Tony.
Oh,
wait a minute.
yes.
So yeah.
Sorry.
Go grab the door, because I think DoorDash is there. Go grab the
Okay.
door. Yeah. Go get it. While he's at the door, he doesn't know, but when he come out here all the time, we would always have a pizza when he left. So I'm surprising him in Dallas. He doesn't know. I think he's talking to the guy saying, "I didn't order a pizza." He doesn't know that I ordered the pizza for him. let's see what happens when he comes back. We always used to have a pepperoni pizza when he got back. That was always the big thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I hear him talking to the DoorDash delivery guy. So, what is this? Who got this for me?
That is hilarious.
And he's saying that's hilarious. The name of the pizza is even more hilarious. Well, whenever we get together, to end, you have to, set it aside, and we'll get into it, at the end of the interview. But whenever we get together, it's always a pepperoni pizza, right? So I just figured, I want this to be as realistic as possible. So it's a good one too. So
that's great. That was so good, because I was like, yo, this person keeps knocking at the door, and like, we never order DoorDash. It's always either Postmates or Uber Eats, and then usually those type of knocks is either Amazon or they just ring like the doorbell. We get an alert. But for the fact that she came down because she thought I was in another room having the interview, I couldn't believe when I opened up and they said from Jenny's, it's a Don's Pizza.
Okay, but the more so. Again, I told him a little bit of the back end. When you would come out, it would always be like, we have to have a pepperoni pizza, right?
Every time we came out,
it was a highlight. Yeah,
had pepperoni pizza. Every time.
He would make up a reason why we needed something new on his drum set just to get a pizza when he came out, and so I thought we wanted to make this as much like a real experience as possible. So I'll be getting mine in a little bit. You'll have yours. When we end up here, we'll have pizza together. But the craziest thing about it, when we ordered the pizza from the pizza company, I think it's called Grimaldi.
Grimaldi's, yes.
So the name of the pizza on their menu is called the Don.
That is insane.
That's the name.
I haven't even looked at it.
That's the name. That's the name of the pizza. It's actually.
Oh my goodness, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got everything on it. So we'll. There, you can grab a bite while you're talking if you want, or we'll get to it as soon as we finish.
Whenever I wait for yours or whatever, we'll do it together. You just let me know.
See where we are at the end. We'll say goodbye and chow out here. But we were just about to talk about the Katy Perry gig.